Hello everyone, Bashar here. In this video, I want to talk to you about cast iron critical mostly, and the other cast on, dodge, cast on, blah blah. So how do these work? Generally I get my video ideas from stuff I get stumped on or stuff people around me get stumped on. I was trading with a nice guy today, and he had some basic questions about cast on critical, and he was stumped on certain points. Yeah, I wanted to do a video about it in case anyone gets stuck. So for example, anyway, guys, this cast on critical and similar gems, right? So these are a little bit interesting. They cost some spirit. I think they mostly are, around 100 spirit, which is, the whole package, right? You can quality them to reduce the reservation by 10%. Mine has 23 quality, so that's why I have 11% reduced, but, no big deal. It reserves 89 spirit. You have to combine it. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So what you do is, guys, first off, you want to put a main spell in. Main spell is the spell that, the cast on blah blah gem will be casting when you have sufficient amount of energy. So how do these gems work? So thing is, when you do the said action, right? The gem starts gaining energy. As you can see, I have 0 here, and I can't do it here because I won't be able to crit on anything. But let me just go into the interlude, kind of anywhere, right? And let me find a few more. Okay. As you can see, it's filling, right? And it did trigger. Okay, so for example, if it was cast on dodge, it would trigger with dodge, and those auto bomber builds work with blink always, because the thing is, blink goes further and it's faster. So that's why you are able to trigger the cast on dodge so frequently. So when you perform the said action, you gain energy on the skill, right? So cast on critical, etc. This does not have a mana cost, right? And sorry. So you put a main skill in, right? And so you can actually have multiple main skills in. So what does that mean? It means when you reach the amount of energy that's required, 100%, then you will get, for example, 2 arcs off, or you could get 2 comets in, right? Comet is the most popular for this cast on critical. So, and what does it say? Energy gained per power of enemy's critical hit. So power, we do have a video on this. For example, power of unique monsters will be 20. Yeah. Normal monsters have a, so the thing is, guys, this text is a little bit misleading. So the text is not misleading, but the formatting is misleading. So you read this and you say normal monsters have 1, magic monsters have 2, rare monsters have 5, and unique monsters have 20 power. Nope, that's not what this says. What this says is unique monsters have 20 power, and normal monsters have a multiplier of 1, magic monsters have a multiplier of 2, and rare monsters have a multiplier of 5. What does that mean? So according to the enemies, monsters, strengths and weaknesses. So for example, guys, the clans master, that's the size of a building, is not the same with the small bug, right? I mean, they do not have the same thing. So every monster has some sort of base power level, and then according to what kind it is, they get multiplied. So for example, guys, the little bugs in, for example, that in that seaside map has half power, right? And when it's magic, it's going to give you 1 power, right? When it's rare, it's going to give you 2.5 power, and so on, right? So when you critically hit an enemy with the power of, like, let's say 5, you gain 5 energy, right? And we have an energy gain multiplier that is 105%. So for example, if I hit a boss critically, that's going to give me 20 power, right? So it's 20 energy, right? and we have a multiplier of 1.5, so I'm gonna get 21 energy from critting a boss. And so the popular stuff is energy retention. So you build up the energy, right? You trigger the skills, and then 35% of the time you are getting half of that back. By the way, I didn't know this either. The energy that cast on crit has is 220 actually. I always thought it was 100 because of the percentage displayed there, but yeah, now it makes sense. So you have to accrue 220 energy to trigger the skills that are socketed into the cast on critical, right? And we gain 1 energy per power per crit, which is multiplied by 1.05, and then we have a 35% chance of getting it back. So the 35% of getting half refunded comes from energy retention. Boundless energy gives us 45% more energy, or without it we have 60%, and that 60% energy comes from the gem level. I have a level 21 cast on critical, so I have 60% energy gain. If I had level 19 cast on critical, I would have had, I think, 54% increase in energy gain. So it is important. Oh, I see that. That's that. Okay, I see. Yeah, I am learning some stuff myself. So the amount of maximum energy is actually based on the socketed skills cast time, right? So I have an arc in there which has a 1.10 second cast time. That means, yeah, that means 110 energy. I see. Oh, I see. Now I got it. I have 2 arcs in there, right? Which have a total cast time of 2.20 seconds, right? That's why it's storing 220 energy. This is not fixed. Okay. Well, in the making of a guide, I'm learning some stuff myself. That's good. So the thing is, guys, so you can actually have, for example, like 5 arcs in there. But, that's going to be very unproductive. Why? Because now that we are armed with this new knowledge, 5 arcs will have a total cast time of 5.50 seconds, which will mean you will need a whopping 550 energy. And when you accrue said energy, then you will trigger 5 arcs at the same time. So you have to find a sweet spot here, right? You are allowed to socket multiple active skills in there, but they will make the triggering harder. So if, for example, if I put only 1 arc in there, so if I'm correct, this should be 110 now. Yep. So I can trigger a single arc much faster, right? So you have to find the sweet spot. So as far as I've seen, guys, energy retention and boundless energy are classics. Every single person is using those. And thing is, because we are not actually moving, because we are not actually casting said skills, there is no movement penalty, right? Because this is in cast on critical. So this gives me more movement penalty when I use the arcs, but I don't use the arcs. Cast on critical cast the arcs. So I'm gaining 20% damage on the arcs for free. And thing is, guys, your damage does not affect this, right? That's very important. So this is one of the things that the fella I met today was confused about. If I hit harder, will I get more energy? No. The energy that you gain is based on the crits that you inflict and the power of the enemies, right? I mean, we cannot do anything about the power of the enemies on our screen, right? It is what it is, but we can do something about critting, and that means increase your crit chance as much as possible while not sacrificing too much damage, right? That's the operative word. You do not bust yourself for getting 100% crit chance, because I have seen some of that stuff, right? You have to find the sweet spot. I would say above 70% is okay-ish. I mean, if you can go to 100%, that's good, right? But if you can't, that's also okay, right? I believe at this point I have somewhere along the lines of 80-ish%. Let's take a look here, quick. Yeah, 81.6%. That's about it, right? I mean, I'm not working hard to get. I mean, And I obviously could, right, if I wanted to. But yeah, then that sacrifices way too much damage, and it's fine. So yeah, whenever I crit, I gain power. And the thing is, guys, Spark produces many projectiles, and it hits a lot, so it does crit a lot, right? I mean, you have seen in the brief interval, I did cast a few sparks, and there were only a few enemies on the screen, and I was able to, get 2 arcs off. The arcs are helping with the shock and single target damage. That's why they are in there. You could have anything else. The top end game build for Spark actually uses Comets in there. Comet is the top choice, but that's a little bit of a different build. Your main damage dealer becomes Cold. I mean, Spark still does damage, but Comets will be the main thing that deal damage. And of course, when your main damage dealer changes from Spark to Comet, then you kind of have to prioritize crits, because what I suggested a few moments ago would not be very valid there, because when you have 70%, that means you will not be critting all the time, which means you are getting fewer comets off, right? And thing is, if your main damage, so because on this build my main damage dealer is Spark, right? Arcs help, that's it. So I don't have to go all the way to lose a ton of damage on the 100% crit. So for example, I could have had a third arc in there, but that would bring my energy cost up to all the way to 330. So this is sweeter, right? I cast 2 arcs with 20% increased damage, so I get like 2.4 arcs off while not increasing the cost, right? Or I could increase my cost to 330, and then I would get 3 arcs off. It's the sweet spot, right? That's how general people do it. I have the most cast on criticals I have seen have 2 skills socketed in them, and energy retention, boundless energy 2, and deliberation are the supports to go. So cast on dodge works the same way, but obviously with dodge, and I think it's based on distance travel with dodge. So that's why blink makes a difference, because with blink you travel further and the animation is much faster. And with temporalis, if you're filter rich, you can blink very frequently, kind of all the time, which means your cast on dodge will be working all the time. We had that degenerate build available to us in season 1, and now it's around again thanks to some new lineage support gems, because the cooldown of blink is 3.60 seconds and temporalis is capped at 2 seconds. Even if you corrupt it, it doesn't go up much higher, so normally it would have been impossible, but there is some auxiliary lineage support gem. Now you can again blink all the time, sort of. So guys, your damage does not matter. Your cast speed does matter. Why? Because you will be getting more sparks off, which means more crits, which means more energy, right? So cast speed does matter. Damage does not matter. Skill level. So skill level does matter, right? So the arc in here, right? That does matter, because these skills get triggered when I reach full energy, and these skills get triggered, right? So if I have a level 15 gem in there, that's going to be something else. So, but for example, the spark does not really matter, right? Because even if I have a level 1, so guys, if my build was purely focused on cast on critical and spark did nothing for me, then I could have used the level 1 spark as the delivery method, right? Doesn't really matter. Why? Because the crit chance does not change. So I could just use a level 1 spark, because the number of crits I inflict will be the same. So that is not going to make a difference, right? So these are the things. So the cast speed does matter. Skill level doesn't matter. Skill level of the thing that triggers, right? Skill level that's inside matters, because that's what's being cast. But the skill level of the skill that triggers does not matter, because the spell crit chance does not change when you level the skill up, right? So for example, spark is 9%. With blood mage, all spells go up to 15%, but doesn't really matter. What I mean is the skills level does not change. The skills level does not change the critical chance of the skill, right? 9% is what spark is, right? 15% with as a blood mage, and that does not change. So You do not get more crits off. So as I said, critical chance, cast speed. So if you are heavily based on what's inside the cast on critical, you kind of have to prioritize your cast speed, right? And get cast speed on your staff or wound down focus, if that's the combination you're using, on your rings. I mean, there are not too many other spots that you can get cast speed from, and obviously your tree as well. So for example, my cat's spark speed is 0.35 seconds. Around that level should be fine ish. So yeah, that's about it. That's how cast on critical and similar gems work. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I shall try to answer to the best of my ability as usual, and I'll see you in the video. Bye bye.